UFO Georgia Peach is brewed by Massachusetts Bay Brewing Company out of Boston, Massachusetts, and Windsor, Vermont. Is a peach wheat beer. Is a Hefeweizen. Let's give it a shot. To classify this as a wheat beer, I guess it's a very watery, slightly peach flavored beer with this really bad aftertaste. There's something about the aftertaste that kind of reminds me that you're kind of chewing on freshly cut grass. That's not a compliment. When I bought this beer, I was expecting more of a peach flavor. It's almost very close to those seltzer water alcohol drinks where it's very watery, it's very light. There's a little bit of carbonation, and then there's some alcohol in it, and maybe a slight flavor depending on what they chose. This one happens to be peach. It's a very, very slight peach flavor. Maybe for the more hardcore drinkers, this might be overly peach, but to me, it's somewhere just below enough. And where enough would be what I wanted from this beer, and just below that meaning I didn't get it. On top of that, there's something wrong with the aftertaste. Not many wheat beers have this aftertaste, and if this is a wheat beer, I don't know what they did. I don't know how they brewed it. I don't know what the aftertaste is supposed to be. Maybe it has something to do with the flavoring, but there's something, again, it almost tastes like you're chewing on fresh cut grass. There's something really, I don't know how to explain it. But again, it's not pleasant. For this beer to be labeled how it is and really catch the consumer's eye, I had too many expectations for this beer, and I think I put myself in a corner because of that. And now I'm failing, and I'm having to fight myself out of the corner to explain myself why I bought this beer and why I consumed it. And now having to defend this beer, I just wouldn't see myself going back to it. And it's very disappointing because it has so much potential. It's light. It's not over aggressive in any of the beer categories. It's not like an ale where it's too bitter or it has a bite at the end of it. But it's also not as much of a wheat beer as like a Blue Moon, where it has a nice consistency, a nice texture, and also a nice creaminess to it. It's not thick enough to be enjoyable where you would think a wheat beer should be. This is just kind of a watery, it's almost like a light wheat beer with a slight peach taste and just a really bad aftertaste. And I hate to say that because I don't really like putting beers down. I don't get any kind of enjoyment out of that. Every beer I open, I want to enjoy it. I really do. Every time I open a beer, I want this to be known. I want the best out of that beer. I don't go back to a beer that I know is something in the category that I'm not a fan of, such as an IPA or a hoppy beer, and go in with just a negative attitude. I go in expecting this one's going to be good. This one's going to surprise me. And I don't get any kind of satisfaction when I open up a beer and I'm disappointed. My first thought that comes through my head when I try beers like this is, who's the audience that actually does enjoy this beer? And I wish I could connect with them. So maybe they can give me some insight, or maybe a different perspective or a different view on why this beer specifically is enjoyable to them. And maybe I can understand. Maybe I can change my way of thinking when I try these beers, and maybe I can influence my taste buds in a different direction so that when I taste these beers, I can see what they're tasting and what they're enjoying. But I have no satisfaction in opening a beer and not liking it and giving it a bad rating. This beer has a lot of potential to be good, and I think they tried to do something with, it's going to be a warmer month beer, and maybe tried to make it lighter. That's why it might be watery, but there's something, again, it might be the flavoring. There's something in the flavoring, something in this beer that the aftertaste just gives you this really bad taste, and I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but it really takes away from anything that was good about the beer. It makes it unenjoyable. My drinkability on this, if I was drinking this, it would be clearly towards a warm month beer. I think they intended that. I think that's exactly what they were trying to go for. I would only drink one of these though, because there's way better beers on the market that I would rather spend my money on. And if I was gonna drink alcohol, I would want to go to something else other than this, specifically because they would be way better. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give this a 3. I had to think about that for a second. There are some nice things about this beer. Again, the potential is there. Maybe they could retweak the formula, but that aftertaste just really takes it away, and it's really, it's so disappointing, and I wish it weren't so. So again, that's UFO Georgia Peach is a peach wheat beer brewed in Boston, Massachusetts, and Windsor, Vermont. 4.8% alcohol. Hey guys, if you like that, why don't you head on over to my YouTube channel where I do more beer reviews, where I do all the drinking and you do all the listening and judging. I don't know how that's fair, but you're welcome.